Alrighty, welcome to day 6 of Math C Unit 2. We're going to talk about complex numbers today. Again, I know we've done a little bit of this, but it did not go as well in the past, and I'm hoping now that we've strengthened some of our math skills, it'll go a little bit better today. So if you recall, whenever I see I in a problem, or my imaginary number, that imaginary number is equal to the square root of 1. So that means if I take I times I and square root of 1 times square root of 1, I get 1. Excuse me, negative 1. If I have the square root of a negative number, I can bring out the negative sign by bringing out an I, and then take the square root of the number like I normally would. And if I were to multiply two square roots, I can go ahead and put them, I can just go ahead and multiply whatever is under that square root. So let's take a look at doing some simplifying. I have the square root of negative 25. Well, I can get rid of that negative sign by bringing out the I and having the square root of 25. Well, the square root of 25 is 5, so then I have I times 5. And just like with my x and y's and any other variable, it always goes coefficient, then the variable, so it's going to go 5 times I, or 5i. Let's take a look at that second one. The square root of negative 7. Let's bring out that I. Well, 7 is not perfect. Nothing can come out of it. I can't reduce it down. So that answer is just I square root 7. Now this one's a little bit more complex. Let's take it a step at a time. The square root of negative 9 will give me 3i minus 2 times the square root of negative 25 we just saw was 5i. So I have 3i minus 10i. Again, I can kind of treat my I like a variable. So when I have any number times a number with an I just go ahead and multiply the numbers together. Now I have like terms. I have i's in both of them, so I can take 3 minus 10 and get negative 7. My I follows with. All right, let's take a look at adding and subtracting. So when I'm adding a group of something together, I want to put the same type of numbers. So I want to put my real numbers, or my 2 and my 4 together, and then my imaginary stuff, or the things with the i's. So in this first example, we're actually adding. So I'm going to take my real part, which is 2 and 4, and I'm going to add them together. And then I'm also going to add my imaginary stuff. Now my 3 is positive and my 5 is positive. So I have 2 plus 4, which is 6. And then I have 3 plus 5, which is 8. So my answer is 6 plus 8i. Again, we got to make sure our real numbers, or the real part, comes first. 6 is real. 8 has that I, which means it's got that imaginary friend with, so it wants to go behind. Now the second example, I have a subtraction sign in the middle, so I have to remember to subtract it. So let's find my real parts. That is not the color I wanted. So let's find our real parts. So I have 2 minus 4 plus 3i minus 5i. Remember, I'm taking that first group minus that second group. So 2 minus 4 gives me a negative 2. 3i minus 5i gives me a negative 2i. So negative 2 minus 2i. Take a look, we're adding. So I have 4 plus negative 2, which is the same thing as 4 minus 2. And then I have 8i plus 4i. So 4 minus 2 gives me 2. 8 plus 4 gives me 12. So 2 plus 12i. This last one I'm subtracting, so I have 6 minus 2 minus 4i minus 9i. 6 minus 2 gives me 4. Negative 4i minus 9 more gives me negative 13i. So my answer is 4 minus 13i. Go ahead and work these ones through for yourself. Pause the video, take a second. I'll throw the answers up as we go. That first example, my i's end up canceling out. I get 2 plus 3, which just gives me 5. Excuse me, 5 and 3 give me 8. Negative 2 plus 7 gives me 5. 5 minus 3 gives me 2. 8 minus 6 gives me 2. So I get 2 plus 2i. And lastly, 3 minus 5 plus 5i minus 7i. 3 minus 5 gives me negative 2. 5 minus 7 gives me 2. So I get negative 2 minus 2i. So those really should not be too bad. Again, you're just putting your like terms together. All right, multiplication. So if you notice at the top, multiplying equals FOIL. So yes, we have to FOIL. Oh my gosh, the dreaded thing. So 2 times 4 gives me 8. 2 times 5 gives me 10i. Remember, treat it like a variable. 3 times 4 gives me 12, so 12i. And then, just like a variable, I'm going to get I squared. Because 3 times 5 gives me 15. I times I gives me I squared. So let's go ahead and put our same stuff together. Right now, I only have this one coefficient of 8, or excuse me, this one constant of 8. I have 10 plus 12, which gives me 22. So I have 22i. We talked about at the beginning that I squared was the same thing as negative 1. So instead of I squared here, I'm going to replace that with times negative 1 because the 15 is being multiplied by negative I squared. Excuse me, is being multiplied by I squared. Okay, so 15 times negative 1 turns into negative 15. So now I have 8 minus 15, which gives me negative 7, and then 22i. Try another one. 3 times 2 gives me 6. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12i. 4i times 2 is 8. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Let's try that one more time. Sorry about that, guys. So 6 minus 12i plus 8i. And then negative 16i squared. So again, nothing's going on with that 6. 12 plus 8 gives me negative 4. And I have negative 16 times negative 1. This negative 16 times negative 1 turns into plus 16. So then I have positive 16 plus 6, which gives me 22. And my negative 4i comes with. All right, 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times negative 2i is negative 6i. 3i times 4 is 12i. 3i times negative 2i is negative 6i squared. Okay, put the same stuff together. So I get 12 plus 6i minus 6 times negative 1. Negative 6 times negative 1, excuse me, turns into positive 6. So I get plus 6 plus 12, which gives me 18. And then that 6i comes with. This last one, 5 times 5 gives me 25. 5 times negative 6i is, excuse me, negative 30i. I said 6 and wrote 6. Then I get plus 30i because I get 6i times 5. And then I get 6i times 6i, which is negative 36i squared. So then I get 25. My i's actually cancel each other out here. And then I get negative 36 times negative 1. Well, that turns into 25 plus 36, which ends up giving me 61. So in this last example, I ended up having my imaginary parts cancel out. Well, if you notice, get rid of that box around there for a second. I don't know why it's doing that. There we go. If you notice in the beginning, The only difference between my first set of my parentheses and my second set was that sign in the middle. So if you notice you have the exact same numbers, so 5 and 6i, 5 and 6i, 1 plus 1 minus, you can anticipate your imaginary stuff canceling out, and then you'll only result in a single answer. Hint, hint, that'll be special for tomorrow. All right, go ahead and get started on these. I'll start slowly throwing these up. So I get 15 plus 21i minus 10i minus 14i squared, which gives me 15 minus 11i minus 14 times -1, which gives me plus 14. So I get 29 minus 11i. Alright, if you notice I've got the same stuff, so I should anticipate my stuff in the middle canceling out. So I get 25 plus 5i minus 5i. Oh, hey, look, there it is. Minus I squared. So I get 25 minus -1. Well, -1 times -1 turns into +1. So I get 25 plus 1, which is just a grand old 26. Alright, I get 2 times 4, which is 8. 2 times -6, which is -12i. 3 times 4, which is +12i. And then 3 times -6, which is -18i squared. Now, if you notice, my imaginary stuff cancels out again. Now, it's not always going to happen this way. It's pretty cool that I ended up just having 2 times 6, which is 12, and 3 times 4, which is also 12. So that was pretty coinky dinky. So then I get 8 minus 18 times -1, turns into plus 18. So my answer is another 26. Again, didn't really plan that one, but just how it turned out. Ooh, same stuff. Should have my middles cancel. So I should get 4 minus 18i plus 18i minus 81i squared. Again, that middle part cancels out, and I get 4. Ooh, that's not really a good 4. Let's try that. Put it back together there. 4 minus 81 times -1. So ends up turning it into a plus 81. So my grand answer here is 85. Alright, that's all I got for you today.